Hey there! Today we're going to be making these beautiful DIY paper floral treat boxes. The supplies you're going to need for this are 50-pound text weight paper. You'll want a Cricut machine to cut them out on, or you can use scissors with the PDF. The templates for these, which are completely free on my blog, and that is linked below and also in the corner of this video. You'll also want some liquid glue, and I like to use Tombow glue. You'll want a wood dowel for curling the petals of your flowers, and then you may also want a flower punch, which is optional. I do include a template for the center as well, and a pearl for the center of the flower if you are wanting to add a pearl to the center of the flower like shown here in my photo. So let's gather our supplies and go ahead and cut out your box template, and then let's get started. Okay guys, so the first thing we need to do, for those of you who are using a cutting machine like Cricut, we need to make sure that your template gets cut out correctly. When you load the free SVG into your Cricut software, for example here, you're going to be presented with something that looks like this. Now, right now, if you were to go and cut it out like this, it would actually be cutting lines down the center, and everywhere you see a line, it would be cut. So basically, our box would end up in a bunch of pieces, which is not what we want. We want it to cut out as a whole, and then we want to score other areas. So the way you do that is first over here on your top right hand side, you're going to need to ungroup this image once you import it into Design Space here. And then you're going to see that you have three different options here. You have this octagon, you have these kind of boxy pieces here, and then you have the actual outline of the box. Don't move anything like I just did. I'm going to put that back there. And all you're going to need to do is you're going to need to change a couple of these to score lines. So I'm going to select this outline piece here, and we're going to go up to line type, and we're going to change to score. And then we're going to go over here to the octagon and also go to line type and change that to score as well. Now it's going to cut the entire silhouette of the box out, and everywhere where these other lines are, it's going to only score them, not actually cut the paper. So that's exactly what we need. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to attach these score lines so they stay in place when we go to our cut screen. So to do that, just select everything on your screen there, and go ahead and hit the attach tool at the bottom right hand side of your layers panel. And then of course you can scale this to whatever size you want. In my video tutorial, I have scaled mine to, it feels like an 8.5 by 11. So, yep, way past that. Here we go. So yeah, I scale mine to about 10.8 by 7.4. If you're using a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, you could scale it a little bit bigger if you wanted to, and of course you could scale it a little bit smaller. I wouldn't go like super small with these because then it's going to be really hard to fold, but this is how I scale mine. So that's what you need to do on the front end inside of Design Space if you're using a cutting machine. If you're not, then you can of course just cut out the printable PDF, and you can use like a scoring tool to score the lines where I have marked on the printable PDF as well. So either will work for you. So let's go ahead and jump forward and let's put this box together. Oh, and for those of you who are wondering, the flower on top that we're going to be doing is optional, but if you are wondering, I do have the cutting machine measurements below in the description, but I scale mine to, let's detach these, 2 by 1.9 is what I scale each of my petals to for the top of this box. You can play around with that size. You can make them a little bit bigger if you want the flower to be a little bigger on top. So that's just to your preference, but that's what I scale mine to as well. So let's go ahead and make the box. So the first thing we need to do is we basically just need to kind of crease everywhere that we scored so that the paper will cooperate with us as we build this box here. So I'm going to crease down the center line first where we scored down the center there. I'm just going to fold it gently and make sure I'm creasing right along that score line so that everything is even. And then I'm just going to crease each of these little folds here that are going to be the outside of the box. And I want to point out something important here. When you're making this box and you're folding it, fold it away from yourself like I'm doing. And when it's in that position, make sure that the top of the box, where the little circles are are falling to your left-hand side. They're all going to the left-hand side. That's very important because if they're going the other direction, then it will be a little more difficult to get the top of your box twisted closed because it's not going to cooperate with you. So just that's a little note there. If your box isn't cooperating, then you may have creased the wrong direction. I'm also just going along the top here now where there's those little diagonal lines that were scored, and I'm just kind of creasing each one of those to make sure that they're going to cooperate with us when we go to close the box. And of course, fold the little tabs on the open end on the one side, and also fold all the little tabs around the octagon as well. Now where there's the little tabs that we folded, we're going to be adding some glue. I like to use this Tombow liquid glue. It does dry clear, so if you get it a little bit out of place, it's not a big deal. It will dry and you won't be able to see it. So I'm just adding a little bit of glue to those two tabs and then lining up the other side. Try to make sure that you're paying attention, that you're lining everything up nice and even. It will make a difference with your box. If things are uneven, then it may not cooperate with you or close correctly. So with liquid glue, this does dry pretty quickly, like it does grab pretty quickly, but I usually hold it for at least 30 seconds to a minute before I start moving on to anything else. So just make sure your glue has grabbed and nothing's sliding around on you before you continue. And then on the bottom inside of the box, we're going to be adding some glue as well. So just add little swipes of glue along each of the sides there on the inside of the bottom of the box. And then when we press that bottom close with those little tabs, we're going to be able to get them to grab onto the glue there. It's easier to add the glue to the inside than to the tabs because it will be less messy, and you can kind of just push the bottom into that area with the glue, and then when you flip it over, you can use your hand on the inside to kind of push it down, make sure it's in line, and push on each of the little tabs a little bit on the inside with your fingers just to make sure the glue is making contact with each side of that octagon there. And the next part is the fun part. So I am just folding the top of this box closed. It's going to work like a spiral. If it's not cooperating with you, just make sure you're getting all of your pieces folded right at the creases that we made, and make sure they're all kind of flowing the same direction, and then just twist it until it goes closed. And then once you get that initial twist, take your finger and sort of slide it over each of the diagonal creases that we made, pushing it in, and that's going to really lock it into place so that it doesn't keep, like the box doesn't keep popping up on you. And of course, before you do this step, if you're wanting to add a treat, some candy or anything inside of it, make sure you've already done that, especially if you're planning on adding the flower on top of it. So make sure you've added whatever you want to put in the box first. You can leave it just like that if you want to. It's really cute just like that by itself. Obviously, I love paper flowers, so I'm going to top mine with a paper flower. This is just a very simple template of mine, and I'm just using 3 cuts of it, and I'm curling each one with a thin wood dowel here to give the petals some dimension, and then we're just going to layer these 3 petals together. I'm just folding the petals up here and adding a little bit of glue. You can use the same liquid glue. I just always have my glue gun right next to me, and that dries just a little bit faster, so I just grabbed my glue gun. And when you place the flower petals together, just make sure you're alternating the petals so they're not directly stacked, so it looks like the flower's blooming. And this is just going to add a nice little delicate top to our box. I think the box looks really cute without it, but I think it looks extra cute with the flowers. So And you can make these a little bigger if you want. I made mine quite small for this, but if you wanted the flower to be larger to where it covers more of the top of the box, then you could totally do that too. Just play around with that if you're using a cutting machine. And the next step here is going to be to add a center. So I'm just using a flower punch. In the templates, I do include this center as well. If you want to cut them out on your cutting machine, it's much faster to just use a small flower punch from your craft store. And if you're hand cutting, of course, this will be your best friend, so you don't have to try and cut something so small and intricate. But I just cut 2 little punches out of this tiny flower center here. And I fold the little edges up and add some glue to the bottom and layer 2 of them together. And you could, of course, leave it just like this, or if you wanted to, you could add a little something like some sparkle to the center, like a little rhinestone, or a pearl, which I'm using here. I'm using a white pearl, and I'm just adding a little bit of glue to that and then placing it into the center. And then I'll place that whole thing into the center of the larger flower that we just made for the top of the box. Okay, and once you have that in place, then the last step will be to, of course, just add it to the top of your box. And like I said before, make sure you've already added your treat or whatever it is that's going inside the box. Just place some glue on the petals here in sort of a triangular fashion, and then press it to the top of the spiral on the box. And there you have it. It's a really cute favor box or treat box, and you can make a lot of them in different colors. I definitely made a lot in colors. I love color, and I made them all in rainbow colors here. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you guys next time. Make sure you grab this free template on my blog below.